The first time his mother asked me when I was going to give her a grandchild, I froze. Just for a second. My fork hovered over the mashed potatoes, steam still rising, and the whole table went quiet except for the faint clink of someone's glass. I forced a smile, the same one I'd practiced in the mirror 100 times, and said, "Soon." But she didn't buy it. Not even a little. Her eyes narrowed just enough, and she let out this tiny, disappointed sigh that echoed louder than any lecture. That one word, soon, was the lie that started everything. And tonight, I'm finally telling the whole story. The one I've kept locked inside for years. The kind of story that makes you pull the covers up a little higher, not because it's scary, but because it's real. Too real. Grab your pillow, dim the lights, and let me take you back. Because this isn't just about a marriage that fell apart. It's about the secrets we carry for the people we love. And what happens when those secrets finally break free. My name is Lily. I'm 34 now. And for 5 years, I lived in a marriage that looked perfect on the outside, like those couples you see in coffee shop ads, laughing over lattes on a sunny balcony. We weren't rich, not even close. Just a cozy 2-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor of an old brick building downtown. The kind where the elevator groans like it's tired, and you can hear the neighbor's dog barking every time the mailman comes. Our balcony had 2 mismatched chairs. I painted sage green one rainy afternoon. Mornings always smelled like fresh coffee and the slightly burnt toast Ethan insisted on making because it's how Grandma did it. We loved our routines. Saturday mornings, we'd sit out there with our mugs, watching the world wake up, cars honking below, the old man across the street walking his golden retriever, the faint smell of someone's breakfast bacon drifting up. One morning, I turned to him and asked quietly, "Do you ever feel like we're missing something?" He looked at me, smiled that easy, familiar smile, and said, "No, we have everything." I wanted to believe him. God, I really did. So I pushed the doubt down deep and kept going. But life has a way of reminding you. Baby showers where everyone coos over tiny socks. Family barbecues with kids running around the yard. Group texts lighting up with "it's a boy," and grainy ultrasound pics. Every time, the same gentle question, "Any good news yet?" I got really good at deflection. Laughing it off. Changing the subject to vacation plans or the new bakery downtown. Smiling through the ache. But Diane, his mom, never let it slide. At Christmas dinner that year, she set her fork down, looked right at me over the candlelight, and said, "You're not getting any younger, Lily. Women have a biological clock for a reason." Not Ethan. Me. He just kept carving the turkey. Silent. That silence hurt worse than her words ever could. Later, in bed, I whispered into the dark, "Why didn't you say anything?" He sighed, rolled toward the wall. "She's just worried for me." That was the first real crack. Tiny. Almost invisible. But it was there. We tried everything. Fertility clinics with waiting rooms full of nervous couples. Tests that left me bruised and hopeful. Injections, charts, prayers whispered in the shower. I counted follicles like they were lottery numbers. The day the final results came, the doctor's voice was so soft I barely heard her. "You're healthy, Lily. Everything checks out on your side." My heart stopped. Because I knew. I knew exactly what came next. In the parking lot, the sun was blinding. Ethan stared at his shoes and asked, "What did she say?" I took a breath. And lied. The biggest lie I'd ever told. Maybe it's me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. Closed his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered, and squeezed my hand so tight it hurt. That was the moment I decided to carry it all. His shame, his fear, his future. I zipped it up inside me like a heavy coat I couldn't take off. Years slipped by. We got better at ignoring the empty room we called the office. Bigger coffee maker, weekend getaways to the coast, anything to drown out the baby cries from next door. But Diane never stopped. I overheard her at his cousin's wedding, phoned to her ear in the hallway. He deserves someone who can give him a real family, not hold him back like this. I was right behind the pillar with the fake ivy. She knew. Or maybe she wanted me to hear. I never told him, because telling him would break him. So I swallowed it. Again. Then he started changing. Not all at once. Little by little. Working late. Missed dinners. The phone always face down. He smiled at texts more than he smiled at me. One night I reached to move his phone, just to plug in my charger. He grabbed it like I'd touched fire. Don't. That word landed like a slap. I knew then. Deep in my bones. But I wasn't ready to face it. Not yet. Until the night, the rain poured so hard it sounded like the sky was breaking. He came in soaked, shoes squeaking. 11:47 p.m. I need to tell you something. She's pregnant. And it's mine. I stood there in my faded pajamas, rain drumming on the window. No tears. No yelling. Just, how long? Almost a year. A year. While I'd been protecting him. Why? I want a child. That's something you can't give me. Those words sliced clean through. I could have told him the truth right then. Watched everything he built on my lie crumble. But I didn't. I let him walk out. Divorce was quick. Papers in a beige office smelling like stale coffee. Clean break. The fallout was, Diane blasted me in the family chat. You couldn't give him what he needed. Then said it to my face in the grocery store, right by the apples. I held my bag tighter and said nothing. Because the truth would destroy him. And part of me still loved him enough to keep silent. Then I ran into her. The other woman. Same store, 2 weeks later. Hand on her belly like a trophy. She smiled sweetly. Thank you, she said, for letting him go. Something inside me finally snapped. But I just nodded. Turned. Walked away. Some fights aren't worth it. Time crawled after that. The first few weeks felt like drowning in slow motion. I'd wake up reaching for him on the empty side of the bed, only to remember the truth all over again. The apartment smelled like him, his cologne on the pillows, his coffee mug still in the sink. I cried in the shower until the water ran cold, then cried some more on the balcony where we used to watch the sunrise together. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything that used to make me whole. Nights were the worst, silence so loud it pressed against my ears, reminding me I was alone with the secret I'd carried for him for so long. But slowly, something inside me began to stir. A tiny, stubborn spark of survival. I started small. One morning, I laced up sneakers I hadn't worn in years and forced myself to run. Just 1 block at first. My lungs burned, legs shook, but each footstep felt like I was stomping on the version of Lily who had shrunk herself to fit his dreams. By the end of that first month, I was running 3 miles before dawn, the city still asleep around me, and for those quiet miles, I finally felt free to breathe without apology. I repainted every wall in the apartment, not soft gray, but warm terracotta and soft lavender, colors that felt like hugs I'd never given myself. I bought fresh flowers every Sunday, just for me. I started journaling at night, pouring out years of swallowed pain onto paper until my hand ached and my tears blurred the ink. Then I found therapy. It wasn't something I planned. One rainy afternoon, I Googled how to stop carrying someone else's shame, and her name popped up, Dr. Alina, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes and a voice like warm tea. I walked into her office the first time terrified, clutching my purse like a shield. The room smelled of lavender and old books. I sat on the edge of a deep blue armchair and couldn't speak for the first 10 minutes. Just stared at the floor. She didn't push. She just waited, patient as the rain outside. Finally, she said, "Lily, you don't have to perform here. You've been performing for years. This space is for the real you, the one who's exhausted." That broke something open. I cried so hard my ribs hurt, telling her how I had taken Ethan's infertility and made it my secret, my burden, my fault. She leaned forward and said gently, "You didn't just lie to him, you lied to yourself, and that lie became your identity, but identities can change." Session after session, we peeled back layers I didn't even know were there. One week I told her about Diane's words at Christmas, how they still echoed in my head like a curse. Dr. Alina asked me to close my eyes and imagine handing that pain back to the woman who gave it to me. I literally reached my hands out in the air, pretending to give it away, and for the first time the weight in my chest felt lighter. Another session, we talked about the night Ethan left. I described standing in my pajamas, rain on the windows, feeling like my whole body was made of glass. She asked, what would the version of Lily who loves herself have done in that moment? I whispered, told the truth. And then I cried again, not from sadness this time, but from the grief of realizing how much of myself I had erased to protect him. The deepest session came on a Tuesday when the sky was gray and heavy. I walked in already shaking. I told her I was terrified I would never be enough for anyone again. That the infertility, the betrayal, the silence had left me permanently broken. Dr. Alina looked at me for a long time, then said the words that still echo in my quiet moments. "Lily, your worth was never in your ability to give someone else a child. It was never in how much pain you could carry for him. Your worth is in the fact that you survived this, that you chose kindness when it cost you everything. And now you get to choose kindness for yourself." I sobbed until I couldn't breathe. She handed me tissues and sat with me in the silence, not fixing it, just holding space. That day, I left her office and stood in the parking lot letting the rain wash over my face. For the first time, I whispered out loud, "I forgive you, Lily. You did the best you could with the love you had. Now let's build something new." Therapy didn't fix me overnight. Some weeks I left feeling heavier. Some weeks I left feeling like I could finally exhale after years of holding my breath. But every session chipped away at the armor I'd built around my heart. It taught me that healing isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet mornings where I no longer reach for a ghost on the other side of the bed. It's learning to say no to carrying other people's pain. It's understanding that my love had been real, but it had never been enough to save someone who wouldn't save himself. I traveled alone for the first time. A weekend in a little coastal town where the ocean roared louder than my thoughts. I sat on the sand at sunset, letting the salt wind tangle my hair, and whispered to the waves everything I'd never said out loud. I'm sorry I lied for you. I'm sorry I stayed silent, but I'm not sorry for choosing myself now. That trip cracked something open. I came home lighter, like I'd left pieces of the old pain buried in the tide. Friends I'd quietly drifted from started calling again. We laughed over wine until midnight, and for the first time I didn't flinch when someone asked about kids. I answered honestly, that chapter closed, but a new one is opening. And I meant it. Then came Ryan. We met in that quiet little bookstore cafe on a rainy Tuesday. Both of us reaching for the same worn copy of a novel about second chances. Our fingers brushed, we laughed, and something in his calm brown eyes felt like coming home without the weight of expectations. He didn't ask about my scars. He didn't try to fix what was broken. He just listened when I was ready to speak and held space for the quiet parts of me. Our first date was a walk in the park. No grand gestures, just two people learning to be gentle with each other. With him, I learned that love doesn't have to cost pieces of your soul. It can feel like sunlight after the longest winter, warm, steady, and safe. Months passed, and I felt myself blooming in ways I never thought possible. I started painting again, watercolors of sunrises I'd run toward. I planted herbs on the balcony where the old chairs used to sit. The apartment no longer echoed with absence. It hummed with my own quiet joy. Some nights I still woke up with that old ache, but now I could hold it gently, like an old friend I no longer feared. I had forgiven the girl who had loved too much. I had forgiven the woman who had stayed silent. And most importantly, I had forgiven myself. Whispers started months later. The baby might not be his. I ignored them. Not my life anymore. Until he showed up at my door. Rain again. Eyes bloodshot, shirt rumpled. It's not mine. They lied. Doctors confirmed I can't have children. He looked up. You knew. I didn't deny it. He fell to his knees on the welcome mat. I'm sorry I lost everything, please, another chance. And there it was. The truth, sharp and clear. He wasn't back for me. He was back because he was out of options. I'm engaged, I said softly. His face crumpled, like something finally broke inside him. Too late. Later, the rest came out. She left when the DNA proved it. His family cut him off. Even Diane. No one left to blame but himself. Me. I kept moving. Not perfectly. Not without nights I cried into my pillow. But honestly, stronger, softer, whole. Because the hardest truth isn't betrayal. It's what we choose to carry for someone who'd never carry it for us. And sometimes, the bravest thing is simply walking away. To finally be free.